Erik Taylor, come on up. Come up and have a seat. We're going to hear from Dave Absher.
Erik E.T. Taylor. So, I think I'm the only guy in the league that calls E.T. by his real name, Erik. I mean, and that is no joke. Literally, I've been in dugouts, whether I'm playing against them or on the same team, and someone's asked, "Who's pitching today?" I say, "Erik." And they look at me like, "Who the hell is Erik?" Okay, E.T. So, don't get confused when I'm going to use Erik quite a bit instead of E.T. I call him ET when he hits bombs, which was quite a bit as well back in the day. So the first time I ran into ET when I was playing against him, it was in 2008, playing on the Rangers, and we were playing. He was playing on the Bad News Bears, and which is kind of ironic because we've both been in these leagues for so long. I can't believe the first time we played or I ran into him was 2008. I think he started in the mid 90s as well as me. But anyways, it worked out that way. Erik is batting. I think he's batting like third. I'm on the mound. We're out of Davis. I'm all, who's this guy? I've never seen this guy. He's batting third. I've never seen him. Have no idea about him. Well, I think he went 1 for 3 that night, but he squared everything up. And at that point, I was just envious of Erik because Erik's right-hander can run and he bats left-handed, and that to me is just a, Mickey. You start thinking about Mickey Mantler's or George Brett. I was always a big George Brett fan back in the day, and so I always wanted to be that. Well, I wasn't. My old man, who was a good ball player in his own right, he was that. He threw right-handed, batted left-handed, could run. So, well, he didn't pass that on to me. So, whatever. So he knocked me around a little bit that game, and we played against each other throughout the years. And then I believe it was 2010, 2009, 2010, we became teammates on the Mudville Nine and the NABA League. um, and we were teammates. We had some pretty good success, and I think a big part of it was the two of us. As I was did the majority of the catching, Erik threw, and at that time, Erik threw pretty hard, and I'm going to say he knew where the ball was going to go about maybe 60, 70% of the time, which was actually a good thing because you would see guys up and they had 1 foot for their team here and the other one in the bucket for them, getting ready to bail out. And it was extremely effective. So we played, I want to say 3 or 4 years. I think we won once or twice, or we competed quite a bit. It was a pretty good team. Big part of it was our play. Um, the next time we played, after that, I hadn't seen him for a while. It was kind of out of the Sunday League. Um, 2017, Arizona. We're game one, and I believe we were on one of the auxiliary fields and for the Angels. And it was there. I was behind the plate. Erik was on the hill, and he threw probably the most spectacular game I've ever caught, ever. It was an 84 pitch, 9 inning game, and it was the easiest game for me to call. It was just wherever I put the glove, he threw it. It was that simple. And really, I think we made a couple errors in the 9th inning where it would probably could have been like a 76 pitch game, which is unheard of. Whatever was it, 50 or 45? I think we were 45s at the time. Yeah, we were 45s. It's just unprecedented to have that kind of game. And believe me, when you're back there behind the plate and you've caught your share of 190 pitch games, there ain't nothing like a 84 pitch game at all. You wish you had that more often. I'd probably be catching more right now because my knees would be a little better if I had more of those games. After that, I joined the Bulldogs, the Sunday Sacramento Bulldogs, the following year. I was asked to play, and Erik has been on the team for a couple of years already. And we have had just the greatest success on that team. He's a big part of it as well, throwing, much better pitcher than back in the day when he was hitting a couple guys here or there. um, great hitter, great teammate. It's funny, we've been in some grinded out games, and Erik, in his cerebral way, will come up with a joke that goes over everyone's head. I might catch it a third of the time. And when you do catch it, it's funnier than hell. It's probably funny the other 2/3 of the time as well. But we're just not at that cerebral level as Erik. The other good thing about Erik is he knows exactly where as far as a statistical standpoint, he knows where everything is at. He knows right where we're at, runs allowed. If we win this game, we're in. And I'm just not that guy. I need a guy like Erik to let me know. All right, we win this game, we're in the playoffs, or we win this game and we don't allow this many runs. We're in. He knows that ahead of time. I'm not that stat guy like that, so it's good to have a guy like that out there to let guys like me who just show up and play, right? Um, so yeah, we've had some good success. We're playing along. Obviously, we're in the Hall of Fame. That means we're getting older. Unfortunately, that's one of the things about being in the Hall of Fame. And we've had some injuries. Erik recently had shoulder surgery, and he's come back very well. And I know it was hard for him. It was a grind for him to be away from ball for a little bit. But he's like most other guys who've had injuries, has come back and just battled through it, and he is just as good as before. In closing, I like to say that we've become pretty good friends as well throughout this last 5 years. As much as we're getting older, I think that seems to be the more important thing, is the friendships that we make out here. And I consider him a really good friend, really good teammate. I know we can always count on him to be there and do the things that need to get taken care of, to get things taken care of. So with that said, I'd like to introduce Erik E.T. Taylor. Congratulations.
Thank you, Dave. It would have been about 72, 73 pitches without those two errors in the ninth, but who's counting? 19 seasons and 7 surgeries ago, April 3rd, it was 2005, not mid-90s when I started. 2005, my very first adult baseball game. I hadn't played since Little League. It had been 27 years since I last played baseball. I show up at Peterson Park. It was the first time I had ever faced a live pitcher in a game that mattered. Later that day, I faced a live batter as a pitcher for the first time in my life. I went 0 for 2, my first 2 at-bats. I gave up 2 unearned runs. They were unearned because of throwing errors of mine. The last at-bat of the game, I struck out on a pitch that was about a foot outside. The last batter of the game. Swanee would have called it a strike anyhow, so I had a swing, but he wasn't the umpire that day, but that's neither here nor there. But I reached first because it was so far outside. Now, mind you, I hadn't played baseball in 27 years. In the leagues I played in, you never let off. I didn't know how to lead off. So here I am taking my big lead. Never mind that we were 11 runs down at the time. And I didn't know you had to wait for the pitcher to step on the rubber before you let off. So the next thing you know, I get picked off to end the game. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how you start a Hall of Fame baseball career. So I'd like to thank Jim and Alan and the rest of the committee. It's still pretty surreal a year and a half later for me to be up here not just because of that inauspicious beginning and the lack of baseball background I had in general. Now I'm going to talk about a couple of things that are in the biography in the program, and I apologize if you've read it already. I know a lot of the baseball players haven't read it because it's long and I use some big words. And I know the Swanee and the rest of the umpires haven't read it because it's not written in Braille. So I'm just getting warmed up. The last time I spoke in public was last week. A closing argument took 2 hours over 2 days, so I'm just getting warmed up. In any event, the advantage of not playing in Pony League or Little League, or I mean in Babe Ruth or high school or college is I won't have to go through and thank my middle school second baseman or anything like that. We had a little bit of that last year. But I do want to thank some people that helped me get here. I have some family members here. I referenced that first game back in 2005. My mom and dad came to that game. My dad passed away earlier this year, but my mom, Nancy, is here today. Thank you, Mom, for coming. Sports were always big in our family, both to play and watch on TV. My mom always came to all of our Little League games. She took my brother and me to A's games. Even into our college years, she took us to A's games. She even took us to the 1972 World Series parade. My mom and dad used to come out to quite a few of my games. They saw quite a few of my highlights. They saw at least 3 home runs I know of. They saw the Bulldogs' miracle at Mahaney in 2015. Alan was there on the wrong end of it. Alan was on the right end of this one, the one hitter I threw at Mahaney. My mom and dad were there for that game. Eric Guimont, if he's here, was the catcher that game. My mom and dad also got to see me carried off the field on a stretcher in Auburn in 2013 when my shoulder was right here, dislocated. Now it just pops right back in every time it dislocates, but then I had to go to the hospital. In any event, thank you, Mom, for coming out to so many of my games, both when I was in Little League and as an adult. My younger brother, Todd, is also here tonight. Thank you, Todd, for coming. He was always the more accomplished athlete in our family growing up. He played baseball in high school and I think in junior college too. He's also a better football player though. I keep trying to get him out here to play. It's been 30 years, I'm old. But one of these days we'll get him out here. One of these days I'm also going to get his son, my youngest nephew, Troy, out here. Troy is my last hope for a father-son tournament. So hopefully next Father's Day. Troy's a senior in high school, starting outfielder for Elk Grove High. So hopefully we'll get him out here. My last hope for father-son before Troy was my future stepson, Andrew, who's taking over photography duties over there. Andrew was a very good baseball player as well, growing up until he discovered that he was a much better soccer player. Thank you, Drew, for taking off work to be here tonight. That means a lot to me, and I know it means a lot to your mom, too. I'll probably talk about her in a little bit. I want to thank the various managers that I've played for. There's been a lot of them. I tended to wear out my welcome a lot in the early days of playing. I want to individually thank Scott Stevens, who I believe is still here. There he is. and all the other Seals players that are here. I see Mark, and I know some others are here. The years I played with them, and when we were the Phillies 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years ago, was probably the absolute prime. According to Siri, the prime of my career. My best years pitching, my best years hitting. And of course, that meant for Scott that I told him that I probably needed to be hitting third and starting every remotely important game on the mound. And if I got to the ballpark and I wasn't starting or wasn't hitting third, I'd say, aren't we trying to win the effing games? Or, words to that effect. So I apologize, Scott, for all of the prima donna attitude I had in those days. In any event, you guys put up with me for a lot of years, but we won a lot of games. Those teams did. I also want to thank all of the teammates I've had through the years. I just talked about Scott, and Dave introduced me. I go back 15 seasons with each of you guys, and one of the two of you is the teammate I've played the most games with. I'm not sure which. I started playing with each of you in 2008, 2009. It was not 1995, Dave. I was in law school then. I couldn't have played anyhow. Ironically enough, I don't think the three of us have ever been on the same team at one time. In any event, thank you to all of my various teammates, and I've had hundreds of them. Unlike Greg, who's been on one team his whole career, I've been on dozens. Again, I tend to wear out my welcome. I've played with at least 35 other Hall of Famers. I went through the list and counted. That doesn't include many others who are sure to be Hall of Famers someday that I know are here. Part of the reason that I'm here is I keep learning the game from each and every one of you every time out here, every time I step on the field, almost 900 times now. I have a very tough and stressful job. Being out here, there's just nights I pull in the parking lot after having a shit day, knowing I'm going to have another shit day the next day. And coming out here for a few hours, people have referenced it, playing a kid's game with a bunch of other people, having fun, playing a kid's game. Matt Wahlbeck, when he played for the Seals with us, he told me that I played ball like a kid, and he meant it as a compliment, like that's the enthusiasm I have for the game. We're playing a damn kid's game, and I want to feel like a kid, even though we're doing it in old men's bodies. And being out here with you clowns twice a week, it's really given me a lot of joy over the years, above and beyond when I'm breaking one of your bats or striking one of you out or barreling one up against somebody. It makes me feel like a kid again. Finally, I want to thank the most important person in my life and the person without whom none of this would be possible. The Honorable Danielle Dunham Ramirez. Stand up, please. Danielle and I have been engaged for a while now. How long has it been, Mark? 11 years. It's been that long. Give or take. Who's counting? Now, Mark referenced in his little setup to Taylor's speech that he referred to me as a 5-tool player. I have to remind him that it's 6. Otherwise, how could I attract such a beautiful woman like that? In any event, she's made me a better person, of course. But I believe she's also made me a better baseball player. Many of the lessons that she teaches me every day about how to stay in the moment, to be humble, that make me a better person in the time that we've been together also make me a better person. But a lot of times it's just propping me up. I can be a bit of a pessimist. My A's teammates last year, quite a few of them are here. They called me Eeyore. Thank you, Danielle, for reminding me that I'm a worthwhile person, both on the field and in real life as well. But more specifically, I want to thank you for letting me play this game, for letting me have this hobby, for letting me chase this stupid little white ball around. Even though I come home hobbling because my knee's swollen up again. Even though I'm shuffling around the house because my back went out again. Even though you had a disruptive, peaceful Sunday morning to drive to a hospital in Auburn because I got carried off the field in a stretcher that day. Even though you and my mom have had to take me to the hospital or pick me up for how many surgeries now. But you keep letting me come out here and play. You keep letting me chase this dream. And I'm forever grateful. I love you more than anything. And I love all of you for coming out. And thank you so much for this tremendous honor. Good night.